Pacific Southwest Airlines was a low-cost airline headquartered in San Diego. It operated from 1949 to 1988. PSA, as it was commonly called, was coined the friendliest airline in the world and painted a smile on the nose of its airplanes. Some of you may remember. It also had a nickname of the Grinning Birds. It was the flag carrier of California for almost 40 years, and here are some amazing old photos from the archives of the wondrous PSA. PSA started up as an offshoot of a flight training school and made once-a-week flights from San Diego to Oakland via Burbank. Reservations were initially taken at a World War II surplus latrine refitted to be their ticket office. The original fare from Burbank to Oakland was $9.99. PSA had leased a couple of DC-3s, but at this time never had more than 4. In 1955, 4 Douglas DC-4s had replaced the DC-3s. PSA painted squares around the windows on the outside to make them look more like the more modern DC-6. Note the curtains on the interior windows and the glamorous stewardesses that were about to become all the rage in the airline industry. This was the times when the pilots smoked while flying, and traveling by air was something you dress up for. In late 1959, PSA started flying Lockheed Electra turboprops. With 92 seats and a 6-seat lounge, it replaced the 70-seat DC-4. By 1963, PSA got its 6th Electra, and by then it carried more passengers between the Bay Area and Los Angeles than any other carrier. The total passengers climbed from 300,000 in 1959 to 1.3 million in 1963 to 5.1 million in 1970. PSA's fleet constantly changed in the 1960s and 70s. The 1960s started with Electras, then Boeing 727s. By 1969, PSA was swapping out the 727s for 737s. By 1970, they had 1 727 and 9 737s. PSA used its last Electra for the Tahoe route flights it had taken over after Holiday Airlines went out of business. The stewardesses were always in go-go boots and ready for photographs. The factories were pumping out airlines, and there was no end to the customizations each one had. Each one seemed to outdo the last in every way. The sky was certainly the limit during these times. The lounges were plush, with every amenity like oversized windows, a wet bar, ashtrays, and even shag carpet. Being the 60s and 70s, the colors were always oranges, yellows, greens, and browns. I think they were more festive than the sterile white-on-white airplanes we have today. Televisions were added for the first-class passengers, then later to all. Anyone remember what they played on them? These planes were state-of-the-art for the time. And PSA finally started flying to more cities in the West, and even built some hotels to accommodate travelers. Before we get into a few fiery crashes, let's look at some more of these old nostalgic airline photos. Then I'll wrap it up with some more amazing photos of the stewardesses. Okay, back to business. In 1978, a PSA 727 collided with a small plane over San Diego. Crash was fatal to all in both planes and even some on the ground. Many of PSA flight crew were deadheading on this plane, and 37 out of its 135 crew members perished. Another notable crash was in 1987, PSA flight number 1771. A disgruntled pilot forcefully pushed down on the control column, causing the aircraft to nosedive. Crashed near Cayucos in San Luis Obispo County, leaving no survivors of the 38 passengers and 5 crew members. Let's lighten it up and end this video with the glamorous stewardesses of PSA. All of these photos belong to and can be viewed at Calisphere.com. Thanks for watching. And as always, happy trails.